I think what would be really helpful for me as an instructor would be to give you these problems with significant amount of time in advance so that you're working on it for like 2 hours as a team, trying it, poking at it, pushing each other. And then I can come in and then I can provide guidance. And maybe even what will be helpful is I can give you some guidance like the hints that I gave you today. And then you go off and I can play World of Warcraft for a few hours and then come back and then we can work, you know, because otherwise it's like, I don't want to like be on breathing down your neck being like, yeah, oh my God, dude, here's the right answer. You know, I want to give you the space to like figure it out yourself. So I think let's talk a little bit about the medium and the hard problems, okay? We're going to talk about it. And then I want you to like on your own time, group up with your friends on your own time, try and solve these problems. And if you have questions, post them in Slack and at us. We're not going to get back to you immediately like we are during class, but we will get back to you eventually. And more importantly, it's not like these are expected to be done when class starts, but I would expect you to have done as much as you possibly can until you're completely stuck by the time next class rolls around. Does that make sense? And then that way, when next class rolls around, I can offer really pointed help. Like, oh, I can show me your code. Okay, I see what you're doing. Did you think about this? Did you think about that? Why, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk a little bit about the medium problem, and then we'll talk about the hard problem, and then we're going to talk about Conway's Game of Life, and then we're done for the day. Sound good?
Sure.
Is everybody here? I feel like we're missing a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm missing a couple.
Here.
I don't think we're going to have the time to do the harder problem.
I just want to talk over. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm just going to read the problem. If you have any questions on the problem, we can talk about it. Toplets matrix. A toplets matrix is a matrix where every left to right descending diagonal has the same element. So basically, you'll see in this example, right, 1 is in the top left corner, and down to the right is 1. Down to the right is 1. 5 is the first one in the second row. Down to the right is 5. If there was a fourth row down to the right, it would be 5. Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Given a non-empty matrix array, write a function that returns true if and only if it's a toplets matrix. The matrix can be any dimension. Okay? Yeah. I think this problem is kind of easier than as easy as the last problem, in my opinion. But what's I think tricky about it, which is trickier than the last problem, is that it's of any size. So it's easier in that the structure of it is simpler. There's like in the old one, it's across or diagonal or vertical, right? There's 3 different kind of ways to think about it. This is only diagonal. It's the only thing that matters, right? Like it doesn't matter what's to the right. It doesn't matter what's below. It matters what's 1 down and 1 over. That one, right? Make sense? So any questions on this? Does anybody have an idea of how they would do it? Brianna. Does anybody named Brianna have an idea of what they would do?
I would probably see, well, I know that I would have to loop because I would have to find the, look to see if anything is the same. I don't know necessarily how many loops I would need to do, but I do know that I need to look, well, I feel like I need to look at every element in every array.
Right. That sounds right to me. So Brianna is saying the right stuff. Thank you, Brianna. She needs to look at every element. No matter what, you're going to have to look at every single element. So what kind of loop does that sound like? A
or loop. Nested loop.
Thank you, Brianna. That's you have a really deep voice all of a sudden. It's weird. Weird that you, Michael's like, I don't know where he is. Thank you, Brianna and Michael. Yeah, so I think a nested loop is good here, right? The previous problem, because it was a 2D array, you were like, oh yeah, nested loop. And I went into everyone's chat room and was like, no. But guess what? This actually is a good nested loop problem. And my advice is don't worry about doing the entire diagonal. Just for each single cell, your nested loop will go over every single cell, right? My advice is, and write this down if you're taking notes, just have your nested loop go over every single cell. And for each cell, check to see if the one down 1 and to the right 1 is the same. If it isn't, return false. If it is, keep going. And the trick there is make sure that if you're the last row, don't crash. If you're the last column don't crash, right? So you just need to be smart about that.
Wait, is this the
So it's-
Toplitz matrix one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And actually, there's an optimization here. Do you want me to give it to you? Maybe I won't give it away. There's a way to make this not crash in a really easy way.
I had an idea. We were talking about it.
Okay, I don't want to hear Michael's idea. I want to hear somebody else.
You wanna hear
Michael's
mine?
talking during Brianna's time, and that's not nice. Okay, let's call, or somebody have an idea that isn't named Michael.
Me.
Janesh, or what's your idea?
I played around with the length of the loop. I mean, the length of the array.
Okay, no, the length of the loop is actually better than the length of the array. The length
I mean,
of
the index
loop,
number,
right?
my bad. The index number.
So be specific. What are you going to do?
So my I and J, it was, instead of being 0, 0, it started off at 1, 1. So I was kind of checking backwards at my top left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
No, my
not a bad
algorithm works.
idea.
But yeah, I went the
Yeah,
other route.
okay, that's a neat way to do it. Yeah, instead of starting at 0, 0, you start at 1, 1,
Correct.
and you check up and to the left.
Yeah.
That sounds great. That's a great idea. I wouldn't have thought of that. What I
I
would have
think so
done
too.
is instead start at 0, 0 and check down to the right.
Ben, do you want to
But-
share your
but-
screen, maybe?
Sure.
You can actually code, like, give other people the option to code.
Can you see my screen right now?
Yep.
Holy shit. I'm not like looking at anything dirty, am I? Let me know if there's something inappropriate, was there? Or
Could
can
you
see-
add a little bit
I'm
of
looking at
zoom?
Right here? Can you see my screen? So imagine if you started at 0, 0, right? Start at 0, 0 right here. Do I need to check? I need to check this one because the one down to the right matters, right? So for this 3 right here, do I need to check down to the right? Does that matter?
No.
The highlighted 3.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
No.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does, right? If the one down to the right is not equal to it, then it's no. What about this one over here? Do I need to check its one down to the right?
No. No.
What about this one here?
No.
Are people putting an X on there?
Yeah, you can draw.
What? You guys are drawing on my screen? What is this? What about this one?
No.
No.
What about this one?
Yes.
What about this one?
No.
Yes. No.
No, right? I don't need to check this one down to the right. So anything in the last row or anything in the last column. So one way to do this is do for I equals 0, I is less than array dot what?
Length minus.
-1.
I don't know if it's 1 or 2 because we're not including the last one.
Brandy,
So I'm gonna
what
do
is it?
-2.
What do you think? What do you think, Brandy? Is it 1 or 2? -1 or -2?
What?
Let's write a for loop real quick. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Look at all this code. Look at all this fucking code. Let's do some of this. Do some of that. Can you see this? The screen
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Make it really big. Make it really, really, really big. Brandy,
Yes.
what you going these question marks here? For this problem.
What are we looking through?
We were just talking about this array here, remember? And we said that these columns, this last row doesn't matter and this last column doesn't matter, right? We need to, for each of these elements, we need to check the one down to the right. One idea, Janesh had a great idea, which was start at 1, 1 and check up and to the left, right? That would work too. But another idea is to start at 0, 0 like we normally do, check down and to the right, but we don't need to check this one, this one, this one, or any of these ones,
Okay.
right? So how do I write that loop?
Um,
What's the holdup, Randy?
Array.length -1.
Array.length.
the array length -1, isn't that the last index?
It is.
No,
and
because
that's why
it's
it's
not-
less than that.
Yes, less than, yeah.
It's not less than
Because
8.
it's less than, then that means stop when you reach array.length -1. Normally, when you write a normal loop, when you loop through every element of array, it's I equals 0, I is less than what, Granny?
I'm sorry, what?
In a normal loop, where I'm looping over every element of an array, how do I write that, Granny?
Like I equals 0, I is less than array dot. Oh, you would just put array dot length.
Just array.length. I is less than array.length.
Yeah.
So if we do array.length -1, then that's everything but the last element.
Okay.
And so this I is saying, hey, so maybe this is, we can call this row R. Instead of I, let's do R for row, right? Let's do all the rows except the last row. And then instead of J, let's do column C, right? Everything except the last column. So then here what we can do is we can be like, all right, go to array of R of C and check to see if it's equal to array of R plus 1. See, I already, I answered this problem for you. Oh my God. I didn't mean to, but I did. It happened. Okay. That's the, I mean, also Janesh had a good answer. Okay, let's go over to the next problem. Super duper quick. Find the battleships. Given a 2D board, count how many battleships are in it. The battleships are represented with X's. Empty slots are represented with dots. You may assume the following rules. You receive a valid board made of battleships or empty slots. Battleships can only be placed horizontally or vertically, so you can't be a diagonal. They can only be made of the shape 1 times n or n times 1. At least one horizontal or vertical cell separates between two battleships. There are no adjacent battleships. Basically, so it's like find all the contiguous chunks. So this example here has 2 battleships in it. This is actually a genuinely hard problem. So I want you to work on this one, work in groups, think about it. I mean, basically my advice is what you want to do is you could use a hash table. There's a lot of different ways to solve this problem. Honestly, I actually don't know how to solve this problem. If I got this problem in an interview, I'd be like, good question. Let me think about this. And just my thought process, high level, is I would want to keep track of every time I had found an X. And then every time I find a contiguous X, I would want to keep track of it in the same place. So I have like some lookup of like all the battleships I've ever found. And then that way, if I find a new X, I can be like, hey, is it adjacent to a battleship I've already found? In which case, it must be part of a battleship I've already found, right? And so that way, I don't double count any X's. One way to do that is to basically start scanning from the top. And as soon as I find an X, go out like radially, like go out down and or to the right. And if there's everything that's either down or to the right, keep going until I find a space. And then it's like, okay, I found it, right? And if I start scanning from the top left, I'm never going to need to go left or up because I would have already looked there, right? So I'm only going to go down or right. And then I could use a hash map to keep track of everything that I visited, right? So that would probably what I would do is I would use a hash map to keep track of the ones that I visited, and I would scan from the top. And as soon as I found an X, I would start a new scan that would scan to the right and scan down, or I would just check to the right. And if there's anything, I would keep going until I'm done. And then I would check down. I would keep going until I make it to a space. And then all of those, I would mark them as visited. And I would say, okay, I found 1. And then I would keep going. Cool. Hungry rabbit. There's a rabbit that starts in the middle of an n by m matrix. N is greater than 0, m is greater than 0. Okay, it's a matrix that has content. Each element of a matrix is an integer representing points gained for being on the spot. There are multiple possible middles, then choose the one which has the highest point value to start on. On each iteration, the rabbit can move up, left, right, or down. Up, left, right, or down. The rabbit will always move to the next spot with the highest value and will consume those points. Okay, wow. So basically, calculate how much points the rabbit will score for a given. Where does the rabbit start?
In the middle.
Middle-ish.
Oh, got it. So it's the middle, and if they're equal, so these two are equal, right? This middle, they're both in the middle. So 7 is the higher point, so it would start here.
Yeah.
And then we go to 8 because 8 is the highest point, right? Then it would go to 7, then we go to 5, then it would be stuck, right? So literally what you need to do is you need to actually write this algorithm to be a while loop, right? Do a while loop while all the adjacent ones are true. I would use helper functions here. When you start to get hard problems, I recommend helper functions because it just makes the logic easier and you can name it. So a helper function, for example, could take in this array of arrays. It could take in the matrix, and it could take a position, and it could return a Boolean. Is it, or it could return like a null or undefined if there's nothing around, if everything around is 0, or it would return maybe north, south, east, west, depending on which one was the highest or something like that, right? And then you do a while loop that's like while this thing returns non-nil, head that direction. You know what I mean? Something like that. I don't know. This is an interesting problem. This is fun. This is cool. Okay, any questions on this stuff? Does everybody feel confident that they could work on these things on their own time, phone a friend, start to code these up? What I would love to see is like, oh, I got A and B, but I got stuck on C, and I put a Slack message to ask for Ben's help, and Ben came and helped. And oh, I made A and C, but I got stuck on B, and I have some questions, blah, blah, blah. That would be the best. It's like at this point in your career, you're kind of at the end of your C for Q or your pursuit, like learning. You're at the start of your self-learning. So the point, what Pursuit is best at right now is giving you resources like me and Alejo, and whoever else, JR, who's helping out, Winter, all these people that are available to help you, right? But you're going to need to be the one to ask them for help. They're not going to come to you and tell you what you need to know. We've already told you what you need to know at this point, right? You know you need to know data structures and algorithms, arrays, hash tables, trees, graphs. You're going to need to be able to write code on a whiteboard. You're going to be able to read an English problem. You need to think about how you're going to solve it, and you need to write that. That's what you need to do. And so there are a million problems out there, but you're going to get stuck because you're a beginner. So use these resources, ask for help, practice on your own time. Because the more that we see progress, the more we're going to be interested in accelerating that progress, right? You have to do a lot of practice coding on your own time. Otherwise, you're not going to get significantly faster. And that has been my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Quick question.
Thanks.
What's your question?
How long should you take to finish like easy, medium, hard?
I think this hard question can take probably an hour or two. I think this battleship question could probably take an hour or two. I think this matrix question, like I just did it in like 3 minutes. If it took you more than half an hour, I would be sad because I just gave you the answer. Oh, should I stop sharing my screen? Yeah, I should. I think this topless matrix one is really fucking easy. This tic-tac-toe one, I would expect it to take like between 30 minutes and an hour, hopefully less. Like I would expect an intermediate programmer to do this tic-tac-toe one in 10 minutes. And so I'd expect a beginner to take between half hour and an hour. I would expect an intermediate programmer to do this battleship one in like half hour to an hour. So a beginner to take an hour to 2 hours.
For the tic-tac-toe question,
yes,
I did it with if statements, but I also use an object. Is that okay?
I don't know. Is it?
I mean, it works.
Great.
I mean, I could have just put like 8 if statements, but I was getting a little.
3
I saw
if
some
statements.
Who had the amazing solution that I was like, good job. I think it was
2.
It was Aranza, right?
Darn it.
Screen share.
Right? It was Aranza. Is she not here?
She's there.
Yeah, she's here.
Aranza, speak up. What group are you in?
No, she's not here.
God damn it.
Oh.
I think she's another
Wait,
one.
no teammates recognized?
Michael, you were there.
Yeah, that's me.
Who else was in there? Was Cameron in that group? No, right?
That's me and Vanille. Me, Vanille,
Oh, Vanille.
Aranza.
Vanille was in Aranza's group? Vanille, unmute yourself, dude.
Aran's right there.
Damn.
Aranza just
Yeah,
came in.
me and Michael were in the Aranza's group.
Oh, okay. So, okay, Vanille, tell us about your solution.
All right, so screen share.
Oh, God. Oh, it's so funny. Sorry.
Wait, hold up. So this is the solution that we had.
Wait, we're not, I don't
Wait,
see it.
no. This one.
Oh, this is something else. This is
Oh, that was the Toplitz one. This is the Tic-Tac-Toe Checker.
Okay, so here, make it easier to read by dragging the thing on the right away so that it's only the code. Get rid of this stuff on the right. Yeah. Get rid of that. Yeah, nice.
So the this checks the diagonals to see if they're all equal. So see like check the x's. So this would return the x's as the winner. And we have the conditional statement here, like as you mentioned, that there could be
hot tip.
three.
Instead of a second if, you could have put that just as an and.
oh yeah.
Right? It's
second
like
if here.
this and that and
Yeah.
string is not equal to matrix. Okay, but anyway, keep going. There's two diagonals. Keep going.
Yeah, two diagonals. Check the diagonals. Triple X is the winner, and it's right here at the 0x0. That's the loser, or not. It's not correct diagonal. And then we go into the for loop here, which checks the inside arrays. So like only these the arrays inside the matrix go along the length of them, and then check if each element equals to each other to check if they're horizontally and the column. So we have the that's how we have I here to go along the matrix and check each element essentially in the row and column.
That line 24, delete that. Dude. Delete line 24, dude.
24.
That's wrong. Delete that. There you go. Okay, cool. All right, we're way over time, by the way, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But is there any final questions? This solution is good. Good job. Good job, Vanille. Are there any final questions before I let you go?
Keep working on this, and yeah, as Ben said, reach out on Slack. Use these resources.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, man.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Night.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Good night.
Vanille, you want to fix the middle?
Say what?
In the sample, it was a lowercase x.
Where? Oh. Yeah.
Alrighty. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
guys.
Stay well.
The email.
Hi, everybody. Sorry.
Huh?
The email.
Email. Yeah.
I got you, Vanille.
Aranza, can you stay?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna forget you, Vanille. I got you.
Okay.
Okay?
Good night.
Tonight.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Dessa.
Oh, Aranza?
Yeah, hi.
Yep.
Did I hear Ben Chessman compliment you?
I don't know, but it's so embarrassing because I was still focused on the other one and I needed my team to explain something to me, so I'm making comments and I think the whole class saw that. So.
Oh, I don't think they did.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
Good night, Dessa.
Good night, Dessa.
See you guys next Saturday.
Okay,
Yep.
bye.
How do I leave?
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Wait, yeah. Hi,
Hello.
Aranza. How are you?
Okay.
Okay. Getting better a little bit?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're drinking a lot of water and
I'm
stuff?
fine. It's crazy because like if you go to the supermarket, at least the one around here, there's no gallon of water.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe that? We've been buying like little bottles, but
Yeah. Well, why don't you boil your own? Well, that's something I do sometimes.
yeah, my mom was talking about that earlier today,
Yeah.
that we should start instead of spending money and obviously adding on to the pollution, you know, with all these
The
tiny
plastic.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my fridge has like a water dispenser, but it keeps complaining that we need to replace the filter. Yeah.
Same.
Cool. So I just wanted to check in with you on, like, I know that these past couple of weeks you haven't been feeling better. You haven't been feeling well. But I wanted to check in with you about like where you are with your portfolio website, and if you had any chance to work on it, or even to work on your group project, or anything related to the portfolio.
Portfolio, nothing. I've
Okay.
barely touched it. The most I have is like a nav bar and about page and an empty projects page.
Got it.
Because ideally we want to put projects there that have been deployed or are functioning. Group project, I recently just got in contact with like Kathy, Sergio, and Joe, but they do everything. I was not part of that.
Wait, like
That's
green list?
a side note. Like I was not a part of that group, and just yeah, so I have not done anything in terms of green list.
But what I mean, like, I'm sure you did something.